Sweet. Right, welcome all. Thanks for taking some time out your evenings just to join us for League Forum, 28th of October. We did one, when was it? Around beginning of September, so maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and we discussed that we'd like to continue these. Me and Mike came together to put this together, and we're looking at doing these, as I said in my email to you all, around every 2 weeks to begin with, just because of the ever-changing climate that we're in at the moment. New guidance is coming out, as you know, new restrictions, different problems, different challenges, different successes as well, throughout this strange season that we're having, and that's going to continue. I'm sure. Hopefully we'll get out of it eventually and we're back to normal. But not just around the guidance as well. We want to focus on these to help support and develop like any normal season, grow, retain clubs, retain players, and make sure that leagues and clubs are the best places for people to play football within our county, and support you as much as we can. So as we've touched on already, if you just keep yourself muted, but the chat function's there on Microsoft Teams to just drop any message in there. You've got myself and Mike Drummond on the call tonight. I'm the Adult Football Development Officer for anyone who doesn't know, and Mike's the Youth Development Officer for the county. So we're your main points of call for any league matters, really. Adult for me and youth for Mike, but we do cross over a lot as well. Mike will try to answer as many questions in the chat as possible. Like I say, we might get to them at the end as well. And there'll be a chance for a Q&A at the end and a bit of a discussion as well. We'll try and blast through this as quick as possible so we can get to that Q&A and not have you on all night. But yeah, we'll kick off now. So yeah, I've put this chat and this slide on before on the previous meeting, and I think it's a good one just to keep retaining back to. That it's the best places for people to play football and enjoy football. That's leagues and clubs throughout grassroots football, and that's shared across the whole of the FA, not just our county. And I think it's a really good message and something that we definitely support and agree with. That we've got some really strong leagues throughout our county and some really well-run clubs and teams that provide some great provision of football throughout the county area. Just as always, a thank you from ourselves. All these areas, there's numerous. I've just picked a few out. Main ones really being patient with us. As I said already, it's a difficult time for football and the world as a whole. And we thank you for being patient. We don't always know all the answers, and we might get things wrong potentially sometimes. It's new for us, all these new changes and new guidance coming in. So just being patient with getting those messages out and helping us get those out. As it says, communications, getting these club affiliations done, which we're pretty much at the end of now, or should be. Club support as a whole, online meetings, AGMs, or just general communications and passing on our messages to clubs. Again, a big thank you for that. Being really flexible, which we touched on at the last meeting, and another clubs meeting the other day. Clubs being flexible with you, leagues being flexible with them, us being flexible with you as well. It's a strange season, so we've kind of got to change things and be quite open to different approaches, and like I say, just being flexible. FA technology as a whole, we know we've had some issues. We look like we're kind of past that now, but again, thank you for working with us on that and sharing that with your clubs and getting past any issues and using it to the best ability to make football the best place to play within leagues and clubs in our county. So we've put a bit of agenda together that was shared with you. We're going to try and, like I say, get through this pretty quick. Current FA guidance, which you're all imagine very aware of, and have numerous communications with ourselves and your clubs for different specific scenarios and bits and pieces. So we're going to go over that and the additional guidance which was released last week. We've got a bit of a county FA update as a whole, what we've been doing in our focus areas over the last month or two, and a bit of an FA update on what opportunities. We've got one specific opportunity that I just want to share with you that's been passed on by Nathan Batchelor, the league's development manager for the FA. Dealing with clubs' negative fitting workload, Mike's going to take you through that. It's just two areas that we've picked out that seem to have cropped up from and shared with us by clubs and leagues, and that we've kind of been seeing the last few weeks and months, that we just want to share some ideas with you and some thoughts around that. And then it's more of a bit of discussion from yourself. So we just wanted to open it up to a bit of leagues sharing their current successes, good practice and challenges they might have had. We've picked out three areas that we think you're all quite, that's been a part of your working life within clubs and leagues recently over these difficult months. So we're just going to ask the floor to just come out and share some ideas around that, share some good practice and again, some challenges that other leagues might be able to share some practice around that to get over and overcome those challenges. Picked out some key takeaways. Want everything to be a key takeaway from this meeting, but we've picked out some three areas that we really want to cement home, and they might not be the key areas for you, but we think that they're quite strong areas that we're passing on to you. And then finally, just a Q&A and where you'd like to see the next meeting. Like I say, we're looking to do these every 2 weeks for the time being. It might die down after a bit where the current climate starts to settle down, hopefully. And it might not be needed. It's all going to be on kind of what you're needing, and they're probably going to be a bit more specific. A few of these agenda items, we could do a full meeting on just one of those. So this one's a bit more of an intro into this. So just to start off, like I say, current FA guidance and consistent communication from all consistent comms. So the current guidance hasn't changed from the 16th of October. We've still got to have those club risk assessments in place. NHS QR codes, track and trace process in place, and this is what we touched on the club support meeting we had last week with me and my colleague Tom. That we had a lot of clubs on. It's just basically the main message was this: is who responsibility it was that's cropped up over the last couple of weeks when the QR codes are sort of put in place by the government as a mandatory requirement in the FA, and this is down to the venue and facilities responsibility. Obviously, unless that club owns that venue and facility, it would be their responsibility. But at the end of the day, it is down to that venue and facility who's putting on that, not the team itself going to that school or public site to play football. Now, we're still abiding by the UK government latest guidance for COVID-19 as we do in everyday life at the moment, away from playing for spectators as well, both before the game, during breaks and post the game. Spectators, and that's just use groups of 6 at the moment, being by the social distancing rules and wearing masks inside, to pick out a few. And then finally, just any players and individuals within a team that have had a positive test or signs and symptoms should not attend football. I think we've kind of addressed this already with a lot of leagues, because we had many scenarios from clubs coming out, and we touched on this in a league meeting we had the other week. But basically, the main messages from this is just trying to keep the league integrity. So where possible, the not enough players to fulfill a fixture. Just because they've had a positive test within that team doesn't mean the rest of the team has to isolate unless they've had been told by NHS track and trace, or developed signs and symptoms, or got a positive test themselves. So yeah, just cementing and trying to get those games on as much as possible and keeping leagues going during this strange season that we're having. Just moving on from that, we've got the additional guidance that came out last week. We've picked out the three areas. I'm sure you've all seen it already and communicated this to your clubs as we did as well. And again, it's a thank you for communicating this on and getting that message out there and working with us to be flexible. Youth and disability, the FA's took the approach that there's no change at the moment within this, so youth can still move across the tiers, the 1, 2, and 3 within our county to play football. The only recommendation is that spectators is kept to a minimum where possible. The adult step 7 and below. So at the moment, there's no travel, unfortunately, across tiers from tier 3 down to tier 2/1, and vice versa back up. As a whole, this is the South Yorkshire region is in a bubble in effect. That's how I'm seeing it. That no one can go in or out of that South Yorkshire region to play football, unfortunately. So it has affected certain players, teams, team officials, managers, coaches, and spectators within our certain leagues and teams, and we appreciate that. And I know you're working hard with your clubs and teams within your leagues to try and put reschedule fixtures to put those in place. And it has took quite a bit of a hit for the adult football, but we're hoping we're still getting some good football on, and that we can work past that eventually after we get past this this tier process. And then finally, the step 3 to 6. So again, no change. The FA's had been given the green light for these clubs at step 3 to 6 to move across the tier area. But again, like the youth football, spectators, as in everyday life government guidance, if it's not essential, not to move from a tier 3 to a lower tier or vice versa. At the moment, unfortunately, again, affecting that step level of football, but that's what we're playing with at the moment. And I guess the main thing that I've kind of touched on already, guys, is just want consistent comms from all. Messages that we're sending out to yourselves and clubs. We want to make sure every message that we're sending out is consistent, and everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet in effect and knows what the messages are. I guess a quick one to take from this is just ensuring all partners and communications the same message to clubs and members are touched on, and just trying not to reword, add, take anything out of the guidance. And the main thing is just maybe not trying to guess anything. If you've got a specific scenario that we know have come across already, let us know. It's for you to pass on these messages, and you won't have all the answers, and we haven't sometimes, so we'll find those answers out for you if there's any specific scenarios around the current guidance which is in place. So just moving on from this, guys, we've got a bit of a County FA update. As a whole, technology and admin, player registration, updating player photos, info, semi-pro clubs, bits and pieces around player registration around there. The main message from this is just clear comms again, just speeding up the process. So if you're coming to us as a league with issues that you've got with player reg or any of the others, or club is, just giving us the right information straight away so we can get that sorted within one email. It's not numerous emails going back and forth. So as it says under the semi-pro and club, name, date of birth, fan, and the teams and the scenario, what's happening. If you can get that information straight away across on an email or a phone call or a text to ourselves, whatever it is, we can get that sorted really quickly and straight away instead of going back and forth to get that information from the club or yourselves. Full-time FA full-time logins. This has kind of slowed down a bit now as well, but we had a few issues at the beginning where leagues had integrated onto full-time for the first time, or just little bits that were coming up. Main concern from this is just making sure that the team administrators who want to be team administrators have got the right role in whole game. So down as a manager, coach, or team secretary for that team, and that all the fan information is up to date. If they're not, then again, let us know and we can get those updated if it's the fan information up to date, not up to date, whether it's a name or email address, whatever that is. The club can do this as well, but you as a league can also resend the login invitation email just to prompt that, and just make sure that they're checking the junk mail as well, because we've had a few cases where it's gone into the junk mail. But again, we're there to support with that, guys. Last few bits, just affiliation. Another big thank you from ourselves. We're pretty much past this now. We're getting 1 or 2 college teams coming in and affiliating, or added teams, latecomers. But for next year, I think what we're saying is we're taking on your feedback, and we did last year. We put the club affiliation guide into place, which colleague Tom did, and I think that went down really well, and a bit of a step-by-step guide to how to do affiliation. But it can always be done better. So any feedback, again, that you've had from your clubs, that clubs have got, that you've got yourselves as a league, how we can improve that process, let us know, and we'll take that on board like we do everything to improve the process of affiliation next season, hopefully. And then final message on you guys, just the league meetings and support. This is basically us just saying, let us know if there's any league meetings or you need any support. Use us as a tool, get us involved in your meetings online. Whether it's just a committee meeting, whether it is a league meeting with clubs as well. If you want us involved, just sitting in the room, or wants to look over anything that you're sending out to leagues, or sending out to clubs, let us know, and we're there to help. We want to be involved in what you're doing in your leagues and support you in whatever that might be. Just moving on first, I touched on it earlier again, the FA update from Nathan. Just a quick one on league forums that are coming up. So we've got some good league forums that the FA are delivering on Thursday the 12th of November for FA chartered accredited leagues that are currently accredited, charter standard, and then on the Tuesday 17th of November for charter standard accredited leagues that might not be or looking to be charter standard in the future. It's kind of revamped. They've kind of took a change on this in charter standard, and there's some new measures in place and new rewards and stuff. So that's really good to get yourself booked on that if you're a league that wanting to improve and make sure you stay affiliate accredited, or you wanting to aim to be accredited. Something to really look on, and the links on there, which I'll send out after this as well. But you will be contacted directly by Nathan. All leagues will throughout the country to get booked onto there and explain it in further detail. Just one more slide on that, just to give you an idea where we are as a county on our leagues. We've got numerous leagues that are already meeting the charter standard, and they've already got that accreditation. But just on the right hand side, we've got the non-charter standard current accredited leagues. I've been informed by Nathan that majority of these, to be fair, are pretty much there meeting the criteria already. So it's just a quick conversation with ourselves with the FA to get yourselves over that line to meet that criteria, to open yourself up to loads of new opportunities from the FA, funding opportunities, and it, again, as a whole, it does support your clubs, and it's been proven that these leagues are keep teams and retain teams for longer, and seem to grow more as well, as on an average, not for everyone, but it does seem to work. So let us know if that's something you're interested in as well, guys. And then I'm just going to move on to Mike now, just to touch on some County FA interim measures in line with charter standard and some coaching opportunities as well. You there, Mike?
Yeah. Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm doing this a little bit blind because currently, for some reason, your presentation is frozen on my screen. I'm still on the second or third one. I'm not sure if that's like that for everyone, but I'm gonna adapt and overcome, as to say. So charter standard annual health checks. Obviously, there is new interim criteria. Best thing to do if you wanted to understand that a little bit more in depth is probably speak with Tom Measham to understand, and send him through an email, and he can send through that interim criteria through to yourselves. There's currently no annual health checks, so I know it's probably a lot. It's just currently with what's going on at the moment. It's not possible to carry out, but applications are now open still for teams to become charter standard accredited. Tom has a list of all the teams who currently aren't charter standard status, so we really appreciate any help from yourselves, from all the leagues. We know that a lot of leagues do a lot of work with trying to push teams to start their charter standard or work towards it. So definitely we're going to be getting that sent out afterwards. Introduction to first aid in football. What's that? Sorry.
Have you got? Can you see my screen now, Mike? Or
for some reason, I'm not totally sure. I've literally just got a blank screen come up. I don't know if it's my internet or
see if I can reshare it. I'll just see if I can reshare.
It's fine. It's all right.
Just stop sharing. I'll reshare it. You get it?
Yeah, give it a try and reshare and see what happens.
Is that any better, mate?
Still can't. It's fine. I've got the presentation up my end anyway. So as long as you just keep pressing next, I just have to do it manually. Is it right to carry on?
Can you just check that everyone else can see it? Like if anyone else is having an issue.
Yeah. Could anyone just write in the box? Can they see the presentation? Is it all good? Yeah, Russ is saying it's all good. So it must be something. Yeah, I know.
No
typical. But yeah, so just going back to that. So introduction to first aid in football. There's any coaches IFA that expired between February 2020. They now have an extension that's applied to their fan to the 31st of July 2021. All the interim courses that you can see on the tables as well. They're obviously interim courses, so you can. They're not going to replace what the original, for example, the Playmaker course isn't replacing level 1 just as of yet, but they won't sharpen people's fans all the time. So if you need to check something, for example, the safeguarding course or the Playmaker course, to see if someone's done it, just contact us at the S&HCFA and we can get that checked manually for you. Apart from that, is there anything else that I've missed, Leon, on that, or do you think I've covered
I think you've got it, mate. Like I say, it all says it on the slide anyway, the interim measures. Do you want me to move on?
Yes, mate, yeah. So just overcoming current challenges. So I've been speaking quite a few leagues, particularly youth leagues recently, just about several challenges that we've all been getting faced with when speaking with teams and clubs, players, managers, whoever it may be. And just want to kind of talk over just some hints and tips, and I don't want to sit here and tell you to do this and do that, but just things that the County FA that we've done to make our lives a little bit easier. Well, because I feel like a lot of the challenges the leagues are being faced with currently, we also face. So if you just want to go on to the next slide with dealing with negativity. Yeah. So these are just some key pointers, really, that this isn't to tell you kind of what to do, but these are just some little hints and tips to hopefully just try and make your life a little bit easier as a league. So one thing that we've really tried to do for myself is just keeping, when we speak with our partners, is just keeping clear, concise and consistent messaging across the whole board. And if we are dealing with some difficult customers, is that we just keep to that. We maintain that level of professionalism at all times. I know it can be really hard when you're getting bogged down by comments that can be really harsh, but from specific clubs and managers, and we tend to have the same people that come up, that pop up every time, and they shout the loudest about certain things. But you just got to make sure that you just maintain that sort of level of professionalism. So if it does go any further to a complaints procedure or a report that you've done everything right on your behalf. We just really want leagues just to kind of, and we know you'll do amazing jobs with dealing with difficult clubs and players and managers at times, but just during this time, just making sure that you're really keeping on top of that. Obviously, at social media at the moment, it's absolutely rife with people writing what they want and hitting send. First things first is that just try not to engage with them. That's what a lot of these people want, is that they want that quick hit and they want someone to engage and write back. And then actually when you see them face to face, that's not exactly what they meant, or they said it out of turn. So just really try and think about the way you're navigating your social medias at the moment, potentially during when you're sharing specific comments or sharing news or articles, maybe looking at turning comments off, because if you know it's going to drive potential unwanted and negative traffic to the page, then maybe look at turning your Facebook comments off just for those specific posts. Also talk as a committee about how you're going to deal with specific people if they're constantly bombarding social media with negative comments. We understand that people can sit below just the abuse line and they can say things really out of turn and seem to get away with it, but just making sure that the clubs know that what the codes of conduct are around commenting on social media and what your standpoint as a league is on that. So the next one is just, we want to obviously work with you to kind of stamp out this negativity and have a zero tolerance stance to it. So I'd really appreciate ways in which you think as leagues we could work together better in combating like potential people being negative, clubs saying things at a certain time, because at the moment we're wanting football to carry on, because we want it to be positive. We want this. The reason why we're all working at the moment to keep football going is because it's for the players, it's the most positive thing in their life at the moment, still being able to play football. And we really want to turn this negativity that is that some people, the minor few, are causing, and try and turn it into a positive. So I'd really appreciate different ways in which we can work together to maybe do a little bit of a marketing campaign, or the way that we reiterate messages out to clubs, players, managers, parents. I know are a massive issue at the moment. So how can we turn all of this into a positive and actually really keep that at the forefront of everything that we do? But yeah, happy to take on board's comments later on regarding this sort of area. Apart from that, I think that's pretty much everything. If you just want to go on to the next page, Leon.
Yeah, it's not workload yet.
No, not for. Actually, it's just come up. All good.
Okay, oh, brilliant.
So just so the next stage is obviously increasing workload. We understand that as leagues, the amount of work that you've got incoming at the moment is massive, and internally as well, we're obviously reducing in resources. Our workload's going up, so it's a really important time as a league just to, and ourselves at the County FA, to have these internal meetings to understand what everyone's challenges are and understand how we can best overcome them. I think at the moment, us working as a unit, leagues, County FAs working close together, it's only gonna help us. So just keeping that key partnership going is massive. One thing that we've tried to do at the County FA is tell clubs and tell yourselves what our designated roles and responsibilities are. I know some leagues have sent this out to their clubs to try and stop league secretaries getting directed with every single question under the sun when they've actually got a wider team around them. So having almost like a league, if you want to call it like a league tree with everyone's roles and responsibilities and key contacts, could be an answer to obviously stop all this traffic coming into one person's inbox. A quick win is canned responses. This is something we've done at the County FA, is that we're getting common questions through. So we just want quick responses that are consistent, clear, concise, as I've said before, and also professional. And especially if they're quite difficult, frequently asked questions, ones that we can just go, right, that's the answer, and we can just send that, and all the team know to send that as well. So whether you keep that on like an online drive somewhere, where all your frequently asked questions are that people can log into and just take questions out of from your team. That could be something that you could look at. If you need help with that, we're happy to look over some of your CAM responses to make sure everything's looking fine with that. Also, if you've got challenges, a problem shared is a problem half, speak with us at the County FA. We're more than happy to pick up the phone and understand if they're whatever it may be, and just making sure you're speaking to each other. Each leagues, we're all in this together at the end of the day, and we're likelihood is that if one league is struggling with a specific area, then all of our leagues potentially might be. So that's why there's a big reason why we brought you here tonight, because we want to understand if common challenges are across every league. And finally, is emails at the moment the most efficient way to communicate with your clubs? Can we hold like potential online AGMs? I know everyone's probably a bit fed up of Zoom at the moment, but it's the way a lot of meetings are going. We've seen some amazing online communication forms in which leagues have they're not, for example, like non-fulfillment of matches for whatever reason. They're using online communication forms, which teams have to fill in and give all the details to save a thread of 20 emails going back and forth. We've also got some really good infographic that Sheffield District Junior League, for example, sent out that stated all the recommendations to parents, players, I believe coaches was on there, managers, I think referees potentially as well, with just really clear recommendations at the moment of how to follow the guidelines. Also, there was one, Leon, from, was it Barnsley?
Yeah, I don't think you can see what I'm seeing again, Mike. No. So I've moved on to the next page. So yeah, you've got the one from Sheffield Junior League, and then just one from Barnsley Sunday League, just one that Phil put together regarding just getting data from clubs regarding if they can still fulfil fixtures. So giving the player information about why that player can't fulfil that fixture, whether it's due to isolating, due to cup tie, due to a suspension, just getting a bit of an infographic out there, so they're not getting just emails. He's receiving this form every time if a club's putting in an appeal to reschedule a game or to postpone a game. It's just a nice, easy one instead of going through loads of emails back and forth.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously those areas I've kind of brushed over the top of a lot of those areas, and I know there's probably a lot more comments that want to kind of come, and we really want to welcome the league's sort of thoughts on specific areas and ways in which we can work together to make your lives obviously a lot easier from working, but also we want to obviously impact football in the best way possible. So I can it's working now, Leon. So yeah, all good. Apart from that, that's all that I have to really say on some of those areas. Is there anything else you want to comment, Leon?
No, that's great, Mike. Appreciate that. Like I say, we can touch on any points away from this or in the questions if we've got any, or Q&A at the end as well. Just last few points from us, guys, really, before we get into a Q&A. We just wanted to open it up to everyone about league sharing, current challenges and successes. So just this is where you can kind of help each other as leagues. We haven't got all the answers, as I've said. Sometimes your leagues are in the best position. You're the guys doing this on the ground or doing the administration for your clubs. You know your clubs better than us, and you're working out what works well in these times and might not, and the challenges you're having during these times. So we picked out three areas, quite general areas: fixture fulfillment and rescheduling, club communications, how you've been communicating with clubs, whether it's online or whatnot, and then FA technology, any issues around that. So we just wanted to open it up to everyone on the call. One league to just share a success that they've had around one of these areas, and a league to share a challenge that they've had around these areas. And we'll just do two from each one. So if anyone wants to raise their hand, I don't know if you can see them, Mike, because I can't, and just express a challenge or a success that you've had around one of these areas, that'd be great. Or even just unmute yourself, to be fair.
Come on, don't be shy.
I was worried this would happen.
I don't mind saying something, guys, if I can. It's Russ from Donny.
Yeah, go for it, Russ.
Yeah, just it's a bit of both, really. It's been a challenge, and a touch wood at the minute, it's proving a success. And that's obviously with the COVID issues approaching half term. Doncaster's just gone into half term this week. I think I had about 150 fixtures from September the 13th still outstanding. Wanting to I'm trying to rearrange. And the clubs have all agreed on these. This is via online meetings that we've had, that normally we would keep half term free, the 2 Sundays.
Yeah.
But all the fixtures have gone into that. We've just played the first Sunday now. I think we managed to get 50 fixtures played. So that's wiped a big hole in the big deficit we've got. This Sunday, I think we've got 64 scheduled. So that will wipe a dent in the backlog as well. But it's just getting a buy-in from clubs and keeping that communication stream that, like you've said, I don't want to sound corny, but we're all in it together. If you want this league to finish, we've got to play in school holidays. Like we've never done that before, but we've got to do it. Ditto. I feature all the Sundays. Sunday we usually finishing around about Sunday the 13th of December. We've already got a load of fixtures into the 20th of December. We've kept the 27th free for obvious reasons, because that is probably the critical week for time off, and then we start again on the 3rd. So it's basically utilising as many Sundays as we can is what we're trying to do. And touch wood, we're getting there, I think. I hope so anyway, we'll see. So yeah, couple that with cancelling the cup. We've cancelled all cup competitions as well, and then utilising every Sunday we can, and we've really encouraged the clubs as well and teams, and I've pushed this a lot communications wise, is to bring fixtures forward. Any opportunity they see where it's only one team been postponed for whatever, rearranged because of COVID, the other team's available to play. So he's trying to get those clubs directed and signpost them to the other teams in their division who are not playing for the same reasons, that they can actually play each other and bring their fixture forward. So it's pushing that as well. So that's one of the things we've been doing. I'm pretty sure others have been doing a similar thing anyway.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant, Russ. Appreciate your comments there. Like I say, it's a challenge, and then you've seen a success from trying to reschedule and being flexible again with your clubs and asking. I think that's a good point where you're saying you're asking clubs to speak to each other as well to try and reschedule those fixtures. And then, like I said, using those different platforms of communication to get that message out there as well. Is there anyone else who wants to pop comment in regarding any of these areas, challenges, successes, practice you'd like to share?
Leon, can I jump in?
Is that Keith? I can't see you, Keith. Yes. I can hear you going on voice. Yeah.
Just a few things I've been making notes of as we've been going along. First and foremost, you've got you said every fortnight. On the 11th of November, it's the County FA AGM. So I don't think having a meeting the same night as that is on, really. So in case people have missed that.
Yeah, that's thank you.
Yeah. We don't have a problem with social media because we don't go on it.
Yeah, true.
So sometimes you get what you reap what you sow. But recently, though, someone did set up some WhatsApp groups, and they were getting a bit silly.
Yes.
So in the end, I just put a note on saying, "Look, lads, cut it out. We've got enough problems without you adding to it on here. Please just use this for results and match reports, and cut all the rest out." Yeah. And that's worked perfectly. So that's what we did with that.
Yeah. Go on, Keith.
Zoom, for using Zoom for the meetings. We've had a couple of meetings on Zoom, and we've got one next week. And the clubs say that they prefer it to the ordinary meetings.
Definitely. So, definitely, yeah. Share that with a lot of clubs in the league. Say they'll probably take that approach even once we eventually go back to normal, hopefully, and maybe just do one in-house, in-person meeting every other one or every other two or whatever that might be. So yeah, I think that's a shared message.
The one slight problem that we've had is with team sheets.
Okay.
Some teams are better at it than others. But we've tried to make it as easy as possible. We did a digital version that they could send online. We did an easier version that they could just do on a simple email. And we said, even if you want to write it out, just take a photograph of it and send it off. Yeah. So by and large, it's been working. There's been one or two that are a bit slow at doing it, and the referees, by and large, have been accepting that sometimes it doesn't go exactly as we'd want it to, but no real complaints. Excuse me. Yeah. Just one thing we've noticed, and when it's harder to get hold of you, we've found out that a couple of teams were paying for fines using bikes payments.
Correct, yeah.
And in case other leagues don't know, there's a problem if you pay by bikes, in that someone at the county FA has actually got to authorise it forward after that. Whereas if you do it online, excuse me, if you do it online, it just does it automatically straight away. So bikes isn't brilliant.
It's not, yeah, it's not ideal, Keith. It's one of them where we've had a few issues where it's from a previous season, so it's not still active on whole game. So we're trying to get clubs to go on whole game and pay those fines directly, like you say, so it does it automatically. But there has been a few cases where, and like I say, it just slows the process down slightly. So yeah, no, another comment just for leagues to reiterate, like Keith says, to your clubs, try and get them to use whole game where possible. And if they're struggling with that, if you can help them, that's great. If they need help from ourselves, again, we're there to help them as well. Anyway, I'll go on, Keith.
Yeah, we've got another one. We've got John Stainrod. I think he's got his hand up.
All right.
Cheers, Keith.
I'll show up for now.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, John.
Hey, John.
Under 21s leagues. On Friday, Nottinghamshire goes into Tier 3.
Yeah.
Can teams play, Nottinghamshire teams play Sheffield teams or South Yorkshire teams?
No.
If they're in the same tier?
Unfortunately not.
Right.
I'm selling it this way, John. I say selling it. It's a negative thing. Unfortunately, South Yorkshire, see it as that South Yorkshire's in a bubble. No one can go out of South Yorkshire. No one can come into South Yorkshire to play football, unfortunately, at the moment, while we're in this tier approach, even if they're in a Tier 3. If anything, once they go to Tier 3, it makes it worse because their class is a high-risk area as well. So unfortunately, that's not the case that we can move across the same tier. It's South Yorkshire in a bubble. That's how I best see it.
Excluding youth, Leon, yeah?
Correct.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
Leon.
Under 18.
Yeah, Leon.
18, yeah. Keith? Yeah.
I don't understand the approach where youth teams can cross boundaries and yet adults can't, because youth teams have got people at school, they're more likely to have cross-contamination than many adults are. So I'd like somebody to explain the rationale behind that.
Yeah. Do you want, so you go, Mike?
Yeah, I don't.
Go on, Mike.
To be fair, go on. I don't mind. Kind of. To be fair, we haven't. Obviously, that hasn't been. Myself and Leon haven't come to that agreement of that. This is the reason why. This is something that we're personally also getting a 100% understanding of why that's happened. I mean, I don't know if you've had any more information, Leon, of exactly why you've crossed.
Yeah, I asked the question earlier today, and it's the FA's approach and government's approach is that youth football's classed as a lower risk because youth are classed as lower risk. Under 18s are less likely to suffer from COVID-19. I'm not a scientist, as you know, but that's the government stand on it at the moment. Whether we agree with it or not, that's what we've got to play with, unfortunately. I understand you where you're coming from, Keith, and we've had it shared from other leagues as well. But that's the message that we've got from the government and the FA for this tiered approach at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, but
we understand it's not bulletproof as well, Keith, because obviously you've got coaches that can travel from area to area with the youth team, but they wouldn't be able to travel out of area and play. So we understand it's not totally bulletproof, and we're not defending it.
With the youth teams, the fathers or mothers have got to take them to the match.
Yeah,
So,
and we're not saying that
it's not excluding adults. It's just a bizarre situation.
It is, Keith, and it's a bizarre time in the world as well, and season away from football, isn't it? So it's ever changing, and that's, like I say, it's just unfortunate. That's what with the guidance we've got at the moment.
I think from a government point of view, I don't know if they're thinking, if they've got teams, potentially adult teams, that are having to self-isolate, and you're getting that a huge number of adult teams having to self-isolate, then from an economic and government and economic point of view, they've all got to then self-isolate from work. I'm not sure if they're thinking that the impact, if you've had a high number of adults having to self-isolate because of football, may have a bit of more of a negative impact in stopping football. I'm not totally sure. That's just me playing devil's advocate, but I'm just thinking of, actually, they're trying to obviously keep people from not having to self-isolate, especially adults. They want people to be going to work. That's what I'm just kind of thinking, potentially that might be what they're thinking. Yeah,
but adults have to take the children to the matches, so there's still as many adults at the matches.
Yeah, we understand, Keith. And like I say, we as we had done with everything, we take the feedback and we pass it on to the FA, and we pass it on to the government, because it's the government at the end of the day that are putting these rules in place.
I'm not even going at you, lads.
No.
I just find it a slightly bizarre decision in this bizarre world.
It's a very hard one. We looked at it ourselves and were scratching our heads, but it's just one of those situations where we've been dealt that card and we've got to play with it the best way that we can, and try and keep football going in any way that we can within the boundaries and within the recommendations. But thanks for the comment, Keith. We'll take that forward, definitely, and I'm sure that's all the adult leagues feel the same way.
I think we've moved into a bit of a Q&A now, aren't we, Mike? We're getting that way. Yeah. So we'll just move on, and we'll just, like I said, key takeaways that we wanted from this was, we wanted to take all of this as important key takeaways, what Mike's talked about with workload, building on negativity, the guidance as a whole, consistent comms. But these are the three that we've picked out. Might be ones that you want to take away, might be ones that you want to adapt, or ones that you maybe not as positive in your area, and you see other parts of this meeting being a bit more of a key takeaway. But these ones we've picked out, so just cementing these points: consistent comms from all, as we touched on, making sure we're all getting the same message across, make sure we're all singing from the same hymn sheet, as a saying. Flexibility where possible, which we keep going back to. It's a strange season. It's going to continue. So where you can be flexible with your club, speak to them, communicate clearly with them, make sure you see it from their side, and being consistent with that approach as well. But where possible, being flexible to give the best opportunity for clubs to get those games on and keep that integrity of the league that we keep touching on it's strong and in place. And then finally, like Mike had a slide on workload. Talk to us if you're struggling with your workload. Talk to your committee, delve that out. Look at other ways to communicate stuff out to leagues, canned responses like Mike touched on. They're just 3 points that we want you to really take away from this. And if you need to speak to us after on more specific scenarios within your league, like I say, get us to meetings, get us to your committee meetings, talk to us, and get us involved where you need us. Use us as a tool at the end of the day. And then, like I say, finally, guys, we kind of got into it a bit already, but Q&A, so if you want to drop any chats in the chat function already that we can touch on, or raising your hand to ask any specific questions around these. Like I say, we're going to try and do these every 2 weeks, probably not next week on the 11th, as Keith mentioned. We might look at doing that on a different day of the week, or delaying it another week. But like I say, we're trying to get these meetings in quite consistently. It might die back down after a bit, where the need's not there, because of the changing climate. Might die back down again to maybe once a month. But even on a regular season, we want to keep these consistent comms up between yourselves and us, and look at least every 2 months, every month at least. But at the moment, we're going to try this 2 week approach. So I'm just going to come out of my presentation so I can see everyone, and then we can start to look at some chats that might have come in.
I think more people kind of got their hands up, to be fair. I think Gavin's was, I'm trying to do this in order, but Gavin, I think you had your hand up the longest, so.
I was just going to reiterate earlier on what Keith was saying about obviously like WhatsApp groups and such like with some of the negativity that was going on, certain pages and if this, that and the other, some bad comments and such like, and obviously just like what Keith did, we did exactly the same and put a stop to it straight away. In fact, we got that particular age group, with it being juniors, we got that particular age group to go on to one of these web meetings, and we went through it on there with everybody and put everybody straight basically as to where they needed to be. And since that meeting, it's been, for that particular age group, absolutely spot on, if you know what I mean. We have had one or two other scenarios with one or two other age groups, but it's isolated. It's not the whole group. It's odd people, but those odd people create that kind of animosity, if you know what I mean. So we're having to bring them in and speak to them separately. But yeah, although they say the likes of WhatsApp is probably one of the safest forms of communication, it still does have a lot to answer to in some ways in that regards, and it's hard to monitor it all the time.
I think one good thing that you've done there, Gavin, was that you've nipped it in the bud, because I find with social media that one bad apple makes a lot of bad apples. When you've got one person saying something negative, then it almost develops and it gives people permission to also be negative about certain aspects or decisions or the league's rulings, whatever that may be. But I think nipping it in the bud and putting out your codes of conduct or what your standards are and what your expectations are, then that's been massive and that's helped a lot. But no, cheers. One of
the biggest things at the minute, just on the off piece of that, is the minimum squad sizes and numbers. I'm still getting, I don't know why they don't talk to each other and say, we've only got 7 players available in, say, a 9v9 game. Will you matches? We spoke about this a few weeks ago in a leagues meeting about asking teams to reduce numbers to kind of show some sportsmanship and fair play. There's still some of those are dead against it for whatever their reasons are, and I really don't get them. I really don't. But it's frustrating. It's really frustrating. Yeah. And you get into, I'm getting messages, even one today. We've got a squad of say 12 in a 9v9 game. I've got 2 isolating. I've got 1 away, or I've got 2 away. I've got 1 injured. Takes me down to 7. They're going to play 9. We're not going to play the game. And it's a constant battle saying to you, you still got your minimum numbers. And the thing with being devil's advocate when you're saying you need to play your games, it's the best place for them to be at the end of the day is outside in the fresh air, but frustrating.
You would take those like what you've said on board with the numbers sort of situation. I think pretty much most youth leagues are really struggling with that. I wouldn't say struggling, but having to deal with that challenge at the moment, and actually explaining to teams that you can still play the game and trying to encourage both teams to either equal the numbers or potentially minus the number of players that you've got, and if you start winning by a certain amount of goals, then take a player off, whatever the managers decide to do. But what we're trying to encourage teams to do is actually speak to each other before match days and really try and emphasise that and say, don't just turn up on a Saturday or Sunday morning. Let's try and get them talking and say, look, we've only got 7 on Saturday or Sunday. Would you mind looking at like potentially reducing your players instead of turning up on the Saturday and it causing an issue? So you lay the boundaries, maybe just hitting that home to clubs.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's what we're saying. And obviously, we say to teams, notify teams of your location, blah 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 blah, by Tuesday evening. That's the time to talk and say, I've got, and that's what we're telling them.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for that, Gav.
Do you know who was next, Mike?
Yeah, so Julie, I believe.
Go on, Jules.
Hiya. I'm sure everybody's got these same sort of issues, and it's just really what Gavin was saying, but it's just becoming so tedious, just constantly going on about how many players constitutes a team, encouraging them to play. And we do that, but the amount of abuse we get back saying you can't expect us to play with 6 for a 9v9 game, you know, that type of thing. And this is like constant, this is emails backwards and forwards, you know, so we just say, and then the other issue is that they don't expect to be charged or fined or whatever because they haven't played the game, you know, when they've got enough players. They don't provide any evidence. They don't, half of the time, they don't send any mitigation. They just send a 2-word email, can't play, going to cancel, you know, and they don't understand that we can't just because there's COVID around, we've still got rules that we need to adhere to. So I'm finding that really difficult. Sorry, I still have my hand up from the challenges bit. So that was difficult. But I mean, now we're sort of more or less going down the road of speak to other team. I mean, even today, there were one team that were going to postpone, but I spoke to them, got them to persuade them to speak to other team. They've agreed to play 6v6. So, I mean, that is a positive as far as I'm concerned, but that's just one maybe out of probably 15, 20 teams a week. I have got junior teams and adult teams. So it's just across the board. It's not just the junior teams. I mean, an adult team, for example, have got 23 players signed and they've got 6 isolating, and they expect to just not be able, just cancel fixture, not play. So it's difficult. I mean, I think we need something out from yourselves, just a little bit of support to leagues, just to say, you know, there is these rules in place. Leagues can't just change rules as they see fit throughout the season. They can't just say, oh, okay, well, it's you. You don't have to play. Then, you know, you have to be consistent with everyone. And then if parents are coming back and saying they don't want the children playing, they don't want to expose the children to it. Somebody six teams removed as, you know, being exposed to COVID. So they're not going to play just to be safe, you know. I think it's that message as well that, you know, unless you're contacted or unless you've been asked to come out of school, you don't need to isolate. That they're just, I'm not going to use the word using it as an excuse, but a lot of teams are going down this road of COVID.
Yeah, no, completely.
And it's not just always COVID. I mean, like you said, they might have 2 COVID, 2 away, 2 injured.
Yeah, no, I think a good example, which Mike touched on earlier, was the canned responses, but also Phil, who's Barnsley Sunday League, who's put that form together regarding, he sends that out and the teams have to come back to him and fill that form. So you've got all that information straight away. You're not going back and forth with these emails, like you say. You know,
don't do that. We ask them. We do say to them, if you're not going to play, you will get a charge, and then they've got an opportunity then to put in response to their charge while they're not playing and send a form or whatever evidence or whatever they want to send. So we don't enter into any discussion about why they're not playing, but we do give them opportunity to say, look, try and play. You've only got 6. If you've got 7s or whatever, you should be playing. Mm-hmm. But that's when we get all this abuse back.
Yeah, I think, like you said, that support from us is needed to reiterate that message, because it's coming from us as well. It's an FA rule at the end of the day, and it's a league rule, like you say. So something like that coming from ourselves is something that I've noted down for us to look into doing as well, Julie. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that'll be good. And just one last thing, sorry about this Nottingham thing. I've told teams that they could play tier 3 teams, so that's not right, is it? Oh no! Right, okay.
I think going back off the partnership between us and the leagues, like anything that you need support on around that, and like we want to, if we can kind of get a statement and that will help you regarding, for example, that situation with the players. It's one of these things, because a lot of these teams, this is still new to them. They're still coming to terms with all these new rules. They didn't realise this was a rule. So just reiterating those key messages. In a few weeks' time, they will know these rules. So hopefully it will get easier the more they hear it. But if you need us, and we will take that away and look to kind of help you and get something put together so you can send out. But hopefully in a few weeks it will get a little bit easier. Nathan was on the call. I think, Nathan, did you put your hand up regarding something?
Yeah, but I'll come in at the end, Mike, because I've got loads. So I want to listen first. But But equally, I think the point I would make here is you guys are working incredibly hard, incredibly challenging situations, and I know there's some negativity on Facebook. I've seen it. I put a post out there the other week to try and explain about people working together. But equally, the positive is games are getting played, and I know that's down to your hard work. And equally, I think there's some success stories we could put out here. So I think Julie mentioned about 2 teams working together this week to get a game on. That's the thing that we need to really be shouting about. Say, look, these are the teams, and make good examples out of them. But yeah, I'll come in at the end, Mike, because I've got loads of notes for you to do tomorrow. Sorry.
Oh, I'm definitely not picking up your phone call. Right, next up we had, I believe it was Sean.
Yeah, Sean from Workshop, yeah. You there, Sean?
Try and unmute him.
Hello?
Yeah, got you, Sean. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not going to harp on about the travel and things like that. But at end of the day, is it just guidance, or if the educated people that look at the government website say it's essential travel only, a lot of the lads are coming back to say, well, it's essential that we're playing football for a sanity. So we want to get on with it. So a perfect example, like I spoke to you, Leon, is a place up the road from Worksop, Todwick, 3 miles up the road in South Yorkshire, but they can't play because the rules were they were in Tier 3. We all go into Tier 3. We're all over the show. But what I have noticed, and I've spoke to Rob Wharton today, there's been a bit of a spike in player behaviour. There's 1 or 2 misdemeanours going on recently, which I think is a consequence of what we're all going through, what we're all dealing with. And at the end of the day, we want to play football, but it is very difficult at the moment, as you know, like everybody's feeling the frustrations.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Sean. Quick answer, yeah, unfortunately now is the quick answer to moving out of tiers. Like I say, as I touched on earlier, that Workshop or Nottingham going to a Tier 3 doesn't mean we can just move into them because they're on the same level. If anything, it's a worse case. So it's high level like South Yorkshire. So like I said, just go on the idea that South Yorkshire's in a bubble, unfortunately, at the moment until it's looked at again by the government and we're told otherwise, which is at least the 28 days from the previous Saturday that we've just gone through. But yeah, share your frustrations and
thank you.
Feel for those players who, and like I say, it is a big blowout for clubs at the moment. Rob did mention that to me that a few cases have risen, and I think that is because of the climate we're currently in. Adult football specifically, like I say, we're getting a lot more cases in because that's the only way of releasing that rage. Maybe, I don't know, but we'll not get into that too much. Maybe.
Yeah.
Leon, just to come in at that point, guys. Sorry, just to jump in. If I've got it right, unless something's changed in the last few days, it's not just out of county. You can't go if you're adult, and I'm obviously junior. You can't go between Donny and Barnsley and Sheffield and Barnsley and Rotherham, can you? It's the old shabam.
No, that we got
just out of county.
Yeah, no, it's within South Yorkshire. South Yorkshire's a Tier 3, so you can move through from Sheffield to Barnsley to Doncaster, and vice versa.
But because I went on the original thing. Right, I've missed that bit. Apologies.
Don't bring that up, Russ.
Right.
Yeah. Ready U-turn on that one.
It was updated.
Can I comment just on the cancellation of games? When clubs are coming to us and saying, "Look, we've got this, that, or the other," at the end of the day, I turn around to them and say, "Look, if you can't play, you can't play. We're not going to try and press any teams into playing when they think that they're going to be under pressure, because the danger of that is that someone who shouldn't be playing will then play." And so that's the approach that we've taken. If they say that they can't play, then they can't play, and we try and rearrange fixtures so that the ones that can play get a game.
Yeah, appreciate that, Keith. I know that's the approach you've taken, and there's such a fine line between. Is there a happy medium between both getting those games on and still making sure that the clubs are comfortable taking part in those games? The guidance is that the teams can still take place and fixtures can still take place if they can fulfil that fixture. But like I say, as we've said before, it can be a case by case scenario, but making sure you've got that consistent approach, I think, is key.
Yeah.
So you're not doing something for one team that you wouldn't do for the other team.
Yeah. Just on the out of county, one of our teams told us that somebody at the county FA told them that they would be able to play. So can you just make sure that there's nobody at the county FA who's giving out duff guidance, please?
Yeah. Like I say, it's consistent messaging just from leagues passing on ours. It's within us as a county as well. So yeah, I'll reiterate that back, Keith.
Yeah.
Pulling that up.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got I think Russ, you did have your John's name. Did you have anything else? I don't know if your hand was up from earlier, or did you?
No, it's another one.
All good?
Sorry.
Yeah. There's another one. Go on then, John.
I'm as well as being secretary of a league, I'm secretary of the adults Answorth, and we've got team at step 5 NCL. We've got under 21s, reserves, and over 35s, which are all at the same level as far as this COVID's concerned. And then we've got under 18s. And the problem I have is that there's different messages from different leagues. I'm not going to include the girls with this, Julia, because I don't really have a lot to do with you. But it's all these mixed messages from different leagues. I mean, for example, the NCL is saying if you've got one person who's tested positive, a player who's tested positive, you can still play. If you've got two, you can't. We've got Rag League, who shut down last week. Not a problem with that, Stuart. We've got the reserves, and we're in a division with teams from West Yorkshire, etc. So we can't play them. 21s, we're in a section with teams from Lincolnshire, Nottinghamshire. They've shut down for a month.
Yeah.
And the under 18s can go and play wherever they want. It's all a bit odd, to say the least.
Yeah, appreciate that, John. Like I say, and it comes back to that consistent message. But like the phone calls I had with pretty much every single league last week when we released this additional guidance for tiers, each league's going to have different scenarios and teams in different areas and going to see it with a different approach, and appreciate that. But like I say, just make sure we're getting the guidance out there. We're not changing it. That's what we want. But we understand that leagues might have a different approach on it, whether it is shutting down for a month and reevaluating it, or looking to get those games and rescheduling it. It all depends on how their demographic looks for their teams and players within that region, if they can get games on or not. But where possible, obviously, we push to try and get them on, but we know that's not always the case. But no, I appreciate that comment, John.
I mean, we've got another situation in the league where we've got Chesterfield Town in our under 21 section.
Yeah.
All their players live in South Yorkshire. The manager lives in South Yorkshire.
Yeah.
So at the moment, they can play away from home.
They can play away.
Chesterfield. Yeah. So they can only play away from home at the moment.
Right, John, ask them to get another home pitch for the.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, then they can play home.
Not a problem finding a pitch, Keith, as you well know.
No, but yeah, you might find that there are one or two more knocking about.
Yeah.
Some can't play.
Yeah, true, Keith.
Yeah.
Like you say, they can play. You can reschedule them so they can just play away games.
It's just all part of this
fun and games.
Fun and games, shall we call it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's the best way for it. Yeah.
Thanks, Jackson. I have noted that down, and obviously that's why we're doing meetings like this. So obviously we know that every league's run slightly differently. and they give out specific recommendations that are assigned to their league depending on what clubs they've got in. But it's just what we're trying to get open conversations up, just to kind of get a little bit more consistency across the board. Obviously, this is the first of many meetings, so we can look to kind of have a few more conversations moving forward regarding that. But next up, I think Russ, do you have anything else? I think your hand's been up, but I think you might put it up. Yeah.
No, just to make a few points, listen to what people are saying. I think the key to this as well is, and I don't know anybody here, so apologies. I thought we might do introductions at the beginning, but I don't know the size of all these other leagues and anything else. So each league is going to be different depending on the numbers you've got and the makeup of the league and everything like that. We've got 400 teams and we can't be too flexible. We've got to try and get something in place now. And going on with that form that you send out, there's a generic email effective that I send out to all the coaches when they're asking, because they seem to demand, they think they can rearrange games. So my first response is a standard response. How many players you got registered? How many are affected by COVID, self-isolating? When does the isolation period end? And then whatever else I want to say usually, but they're the set questions that I'll ask every time. If it goes for 11-a-side games, I'm generally letting them go down to 11-10, and I think the key to this as well is consistency. We've had this approach from start and we've not changed, therefore everyone's going to be treated exactly the same regardless. If they're going down to 10-9, the next question on that email is, will that opposition play with 10 or 9 against you for a fair game? If they're going to 8-7, and I know the rules say they can still play with 8-7, and nobody wants to see 7 lads and lasses against 11 or anything like that on a full-size pitch, because that's cruel in itself. So we need to try and avoid that. So it's just having that level of consistency. The other one that comes up as well is the coaches themselves saying, I'm now self-isolating. So the first question back to them every time is, well, what about your team? Because they're not. We said, no, the team are fine. It's just the coach that's self-isolating. Well, can somebody else take that team? Have you got an assistant? Because generally they do. Or is anybody else within that club who can run that team for the day? Obviously, all DBS compliant and that. So there's a set questions that we're asking them all the time. And as long as you apply whatever that league you're in, as long as you apply your formula to those, then you're all right. One of the big troubles we've got, and I know we'll keep getting people are talking about mixed messages, and we'll always struggle because we've got mixed messages. I don't want to get political, but we've got mixed messages coming from government. Who the NHS track and trace, it seems to work fine, that we all stick to, and the schools policy, which we stick to, they send them home to self-isolate. That's all good. It's this app that seems to be throwing everything out when people says, well, it's telling me on app that I've got to self-isolate for 14 days when they've just walked past somebody in Morrison's or something like that with no symptoms whatsoever, and they're not displaying it, but then they're coming to telling us in league, we've been told by this app we've got to self-isolate. The app's been absolutely slated to death itself. And I know we're not going to achieve anything here on this forum now regarding the app, but the government itself don't seem to rate it because they're not, when they're paying furlough out for people who are on self-isolating, on track and trace, they're doing it according to the app. They will not pay it out. That's how much faith they've got in that app, that they will not pay furlough money for people who have been told to self-isolate on that. So it's a bit of it. It's an hard work. It really is tough at the minute trying to find a level playing field and apply common sense, because the last thing we want to do as league secretaries as well, because we've got to keep confidence in all our coaches and all our secretaries. And if we come on into them like a ton of bricks, throwing rules at them and all the rules that we've got at them, which we have to do as well, then they're just going to retreat and say, well, I'll tell you what, I've had enough, or whatever it is, or players are going to do that, or parents are going to do that, or the team manager is going to do that, or whatever the case may be. So it's trying to keep reassuring and trying to keep on side with all your coaches and all your secretaries and all that in your league, and try and get us towards a conclusion if we can. Apologies for that, guys. I just haven't done it.
I'll apologise for not doing intros as well, Russ. I mean, I can do them if you want, but we'll do one next one. We'll do one next one. Keith, have you got something to add to that?
Yeah, Leon, just on what Russ is saying, I do think that hearing the news today, I don't think we're that far away from having a tighter lockdown than what we've got everywhere. And it's potentially football will get stopped. So we're trying to be mindful of that as well. But in in respect of the fixtures, that someone was doing extra fixtures, we're almost certainly going to cancel on December the 20th to give a 3-week break over Christmas, because we feel that that's going to be a time potentially when, because it's Christmas, people are more likely to catch COVID. So we're giving the gap, we're making the gap there so that we don't have the problems with lots of games being called off because of Christmas.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to say.
No, I appreciate that, Keith. But do you think you'll have enough? I'm just throwing it back at you. Do you think you'll have enough time at the end of the season to reschedule those fixtures as well?
Well,
the ones that you might have lost during that time, or the ones that you've already potentially lost.
Yeah, but they were already off on the
That's something.
on the 27th and the 3rd of January. There were no fixtures anyway. It's only 1 week that we're taking out on the 20th. So we think that we'll get that back. And in the past, that week before Christmas, or the Sunday before Christmas, has always been a problem, with teams saying, well, I've got players going here, there and everywhere, and players not turning up because they've finished work and gone out and that. So we're going to take that risk out of it for us. So
yeah. No, I appreciate those comments, Keith.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we've all got to be wary of, and I dare say we'll all get together when it comes, is after this 28 days of this review of this one, because if this doesn't work and the R rate's still going up, there's nowhere else to go, but with a likelihood that they may well finish football, because I can't see what else they can do, because they've done everything now in South Yorkshire. The pubs are shut. The only thing that's happening is people are going to work, and everything else that they've introduced. I don't know where else they can go to put more restrictions on to bring the R rate down. So I fear for football if we've not got this R rate down after 28 days. But, you know, that's me again.
Yeah, and I think that's what we've got to reiterate to clubs and teams, like the recommendations that we're putting in place with, like, it, for example, the Sheffield District Junior League, that going back to their infographic, that was just recommendations of how can we make football the safest place and stop them from pulling the plug on football. So we're happy to share that with all the leagues. They've given us the AOK for that, and there was some really good guidance and just really simple. But yeah, I agree, Russ. We just we'll definitely look. I think that's a good idea. Is actually look at where the 28-day catch point, if you want to call it that, is where that's going to happen, and look to have organise a meeting maybe whenever a few days after that and get something set in place. 100%.
I've had it not more in jest from friends of mine and that, knowing what job I do. One thing that the blaming, or it's not saying the blaming, but one of the finger's been pointed. It's all started in September. We seem to be all good in summer. Everything's getting nice. Everyone's getting complacent, and then come September, you can blame schools going back. You can blame universities going back. The other thing we have to factor in is that football came back as well. So for example, we've got 5,000 players. You took 2 parents on those turning up with the kids, coaches, referees. That's 20,000. I know they're not all in the same place, but they're all migrating and all moving about on a Saturday and Sunday. You put adults into that in Donny as well, and you've got 40,000 people all moving around and crossing each other on a Saturday and Sunday each weekend. So we have to consider that you know, football may be one of the factors for this, as well as the schools and universities. We don't know, do we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100% is something that we need to take on board, and I'm sure that's why the government are looking at as more than ever at specific things. That's why we just got to reiterate those sort of key messages, is that let's keep to the recommendations. Let's make sure clubs are following all the guidelines, washing hands, social distancing, one, for example, in the youth sort of game, one parent to what each child, and not bring the whole family down because it's the only football that they're getting at weekends. Just really reiterating certain key messages. But yeah, no, thank you, Russ. Next up, I think Nathan. Did you? I think you had your.
John's got his as well. Go on, Nathan.
John's
I don't know if you want to wait till end, Nathan. John, if you want to go, mate.
You know, the only thing I think we've just got to go back to what we started this meeting off with. We've got to be flexible. We've got to be flexible. I think some leagues are at the moment, and I think that others aren't, if I'm quite honest. That's me done. Thank you.
It is difficult. As we know, every league's different, especially across youth and adults. Obviously, smaller number of like teams. Obviously, youth have got all these different age groups, so it is flexibility. But it needs to be on a case by case basis and a league by league basis. But no, I agree with what you're saying, John. Is that just as flexible as we can, but within our reins and within each league's sort of code of conduct and standards or whatever they're setting. Nathan, I think you're sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, like one of John's earlier points. I mean, I feel sorry for history teachers in 40 years trying to explain some of this. You know, some of it doesn't make sense. So God knows how they're going to explain it in 40 years' time. But equally here, I just wondered, you know, you talked about an infographic, and we're talking about tonight as a power of all the leagues coming together. Is it something that the county could do with putting each league logo on if the league was happy to do so? So it's a very strong message, essentially, coming from the leagues as a whole, that, you know, this is the guidance, so that we don't have mixed messages. We've got it as a, I don't know, I'm throwing it out there, as a united front, and that could be around infographics for social distancing, etc., but also around the abuse argument, you know, so tolerate it. I just wondered if that was an opportunity, because tonight's like this hopefully gives everyone reassurance that actually you're doing the right thing. Yeah, some leagues might be more flexible or inflexible than others, but generally you don't get an opportunity to talk to other league officials that are actually experiencing what you're experiencing day in, day out. So again, thank you for all your time and stuff like that. And just wanted, and that was just some of the ideas that came out of my head. And equally, this is the old age adage of clubs telling you what they're going to do without you getting it second or third hand. That still still happens. So if I know a team's told their opponents on a Monday not play, but not told you until the Friday, we're always going to struggle, aren't we? So it's, you know, just clubs helping everybody, really.
Yeah, no,
I think on that. On that infographic with league logos, that was something that I actually spoke with Julie Higgins about last week, about getting a collective message sent out from ourselves with the leagues, whether we do that as collectively every adult and youth league with all the same messaging, or do we separate it considering the differences in the restrictions. But 100%, I think the zero tolerance to negativity, but putting a positive spin on it, I think we can really look at like how can we get messaging out to the teams. And I'm thinking Sheffield District, the Sheffield Junior Forum, especially if we can get them on board and promoting some of potential this, if we put together an infographic that's got a lot of key clubs and teams, managers, players, parents on that as well. But yeah, no, me and Leon I'm fully on board of getting something like that set up. So we'll send some information out to the leagues and what needs to be on there that you can use.
Any comment from leagues on that point that Nathan made, that idea of a shared approach, and would you be
Leon, I don't think adults and juniors, it's a different message.
I think that's what Mike just said, that we do a separate one for youth and one for adult, and if it's yeah. No, I appreciate that.
And if the government do get round to talking about football and maybe stopping football, they need to do the first step is to stop youth football from travelling like they are. That's got to be the first step, not just stopping all football. Because I honestly believe that the biggest problems with the spread of the virus is more likely to come from junior football, because they're at school and the number of parents that go with them. I went to a game the other week at Brinsworth, and the touch lines were packed with parents and other players. It's not, you know, but the adult games, there was hardly anybody there.
Yeah, we'll take that on board. And
I think that might be because you came to watch our game, Keith, so we're not very good. So that's probably why there were no one watching this.
Well, yeah, but to me, it just seems crazy. I don't get it at all.
I don't disagree with you, Keith. But as a junior league secretary. I'll have to defend him a little bit. I think it's already been touched on. I think for whatever reason, and I don't know, government have decided the younger ones are not susceptible as such to COVID or can carry it off. But obviously, we all know they can pass it on to adults and that. I think my lad plays adult football, and the one thing that got said to him, and I don't know how true this is, but what the juniors don't do really, but what the adults do is after the game, they will go and socialise and sit in a pub, like 20 of them. And my lad does it as well. And they're all sat there drinking. They're all on top of each other. And there's quite a lot of his team been tested positive for COVID, and they're all passing it each other. So I dare say that goes on in the adult world as well, which we all know if we played football. I'm just throwing something in there for one of the reasons. But I'm in agree with you all. It's very mystifying on why they've done that.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget that the juniors going to their games, it's quite often the grandparents that are going with them.
Rest and uncles and aunties, everybody. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I just don't get it at all. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox with that.
Thanks, Keith. But no, I've noted that down. Definitely, that will go on recommendations and guidelines, and that's what we've been promoting to try and make sure we drive the number of people that go and watch junior matches down, and just keep that to a bare minimum. Obviously, at least that it needs to have one adult at a junior game for each player for safeguarding welfare issues, obviously. So, all good. Is there anyone else that needs? Julie?
I just want to, and this is another question I get asked a lot. Why is it different in adult football if you play at a higher level? I get this.
I wish I
could be down to facilities. It could be down to Nathan.
Money. It's all money.
I know.
Money, and
basically it's just my county league teams that can't play, but anybody else can play. And I just get so much grief about it.
Yeah.
So if you're good at football, you're all right. That's basically what they're saying.
It's one of those. We don't obviously we work at grassroots level. We're not obviously elite level. We make sure that grassroots that's our domain. But I agree. It's something that if we're trying to make it consistent across the board, but then you're allowing players for example, in the high leagues to have players who have COVID, but then they're still playing. The teams are still playing and still travelling across different tiers. Then what message does
that's what the problem is.
We can't.
Yeah,
I wish we could go into but
maybe gets a bit of clarity on that.
Yeah, just if you could. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks, Julie.
Can I just ask another one, guys? Well, I think I've already mentioned this to you, Leon, as well. One thing we've resisted doing at Doncaster, which I've resisted from the start, is I'm hearing some leagues nationally and possibly locally as well are asking for evidence of COVID coming from NHS records or school records, which personally I find fraught with danger, and I wouldn't ever resort to doing that. And I don't know if that's being practiced across South Yorkshire, but it's not something I certainly would be comfortable in doing that at all.
Yeah.
Sorry, Leon. Go on, mate.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, you said it to me. I think it was today or yesterday, Russ. I'm getting mixed up with this week, to be fair, I must admit. But yeah, I agree. I think we had a message out on our league meeting that we did a few weeks ago, which was all around COVID guidance and QR codes and positive testing bits and pieces. And we had, I think, the FA's stance on it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nathan. If you know, is that it's not recommended, and recommend that leagues don't ask for that. But it's a recommendation. It's not in place, so they still can ask for it, but it's recommended that they don't. For like you say, getting yourself into a bit of a hole with GDPR and bits around that.
I've heard that I think it might even be the North East Counties League are asking for evidence.
Yeah, we've heard reports.
Yeah, they are, Keith.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, as you say, going back to this flexibility, is that your club's the best, and I think documentation of proof, asking for potentially headed document, could you do that instead? But if you know that there's a club that starts to ring alarm bells, that they're putting in these reports saying there's a player isolating here, there's a player isolating there, and you don't believe that to be true, then, and the team a lot better than we do at the county FA, then potentially you look to ask for further documentation. But as we've said before, it's a very grey area in terms of GDPR asking for medical documents, especially within the junior sort of ranks. So I think just taking it as a case by case basis is probably the best scenario. Russ, just a quick one. What have you been asking for? If have you been asking for anything, or are you just trusting each team's club's word regarding?
Yeah. With Mike right from start, we've had enough meetings with this and called special meetings. It's been integrity and honesty. That's the message we've pushed out. If you want this league to finish, we've all got to be honest with each other. If you are telling me you've got 10 players out, all been sent home from school with COVID, then that's fine. I will say that as long as it goes below those numbers that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
But I've never asked, and I never will ask for anything. I think there's too many, like you say, GDPR, safeguarding, data protection. It's touching on a lot of things that I don't want to get involved in, to be honest.
Appreciate
not
that.
for me.
Yeah. Julie.
To be fair, sorry, just to finish off on that, I will say this: the clubs have been fantastic. I would say, and you're always going to get the odd one. I would say 98% are doing it and all doing it properly, and it's the odd 2%, I think, who might be, shall we say, pull the wool over the eyes or try to. And if it's only 2% out of 100, then, you know, can I live with that small tolerance? I think I can, and then we'll get through it. And that's the approach we've had.
Yeah, appreciate that, Russ. You got something to add on that, Julie? Sorry, or was it a separate point? No?
I think she just left her hand up from before.
All right, fair play. I'm not going to force you to speak, Julie, don't I?
I think we're getting close to the hour mark, so I'm worried that we've ruined everyone's tea time. So,
Yeah.
Is there anything else from anyone? Final points to take away? All good.
Sweet. I think, yeah, I'll just reiterate again, guys, just them consistent comms and keep communicating with us as well. If you're not sure, ask, let us know. We'll get that answer. We'll know it, or we'll find it out for you. There's going to be different scenarios. It's going to be a challenging time for both youth, adult football. Whatever it is that you're struggling with, let us know. League meetings, committee meetings, if you want us to be on them, we're willing to be on them. They're going to be online like this, but I think that's the new norm for the time being. But yeah, just keep up them consistent comms and keeping communication ourselves, sharing those challenges. Like I said, we'll get this recording sent out as well prior to this. I'll get it sent out either tomorrow or Friday when I can get it downloaded onto the laptop. And then keep going.
Could you just say one thing I've noticed in the last couple of days, the whole game system, the league statement, what you see on screen differs from the actual download.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of that. A few leagues have made me aware, so I've reported it.
I don't know which one's right.
Yeah, no, I'll keep looking into that, Keith. I've had a few leagues reported to me yesterday and today, so I'll get onto the FA Tech team. I've already reported it to him, but I'll get onto him with that as well.
Okay.
See why that might be. I appreciate that. Yeah. But yeah, like I was saying, guys, got this recorded. We'll get it sent out. Any other communications, let us know. Let us get in touch. We'll go from there. Do you want to say else, Stuart, or you were just going? No worries. Sound. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.